Parents, when it comes to sleep, most of the time you have tried everything and you're doing it all right. You've tried earlier bedtimes, you've tried blackout curtains, you've tried melatonin gummies, white noise machines, and your child is still awake for 2, maybe even 3 hours when they clearly desperately need more sleep. If that's your life right now, here's something important to understand. One, I've been there. I know how important it is, not only for our kids to get sleep, for us as parents also to get deep restorative sleep. So you're not failing at bedtime and your child's not being difficult if you're experiencing this. What you're seeing is that exhausted but wired pattern, which is a nervous system that is stuck and no sleep routine, no supplement, no melatonin, no blackout curtain can override a nervous system that physiologically is locked in fight or fight mode. And here's a number that should really stop most parents cold is that approximately 35% of children in the United States are not getting enough sleep. So that's more than 1 in 3 kids that are starting their day or they're walking into school literally running on empty. And we hear the same story every single week from families just like you that you've tried it all. You've tried different routines, you've tried supplements, the schedules, the bath time. You've tried all of these things, and your child is still exhausted. They're still wired, but they're still not sleeping. And what nobody's telling you is that the problem isn't at bedtime. Like I said, it's in the nervous system, and it often starts long before bedtime routines were really even a factor. Most parents think of sleep as just rest, right? But sleep is actually one of the most active, productive periods of your child's entire day. And here's what's happening when your child is sleeping. Their brain actually sorts and consolidates learning. It's strengthening neural connections and it's filing everything away from the day. I don't know about you, but when my child goes through some neurological leaps, I have my oldest is 3.5. There are sometimes before bed, we call it the brain dump, where like he lays down, like we know he's tired. And so he lays down and it's just like he spews out information from everything throughout the day. Different things that he learns. He starts singing a song that maybe we listened to earlier in the day. He does this like brain dump. But the brain is sorting through everything from the day. It's consolidating everything that he's learned. And it's almost like he needs to do that before he can fully settle and relax. And, it's not a problem because it's not an hour or 2, 3 hours. It's usually, 15, 20 minutes. But that's a perfect example of things that we see as parents where the brain is actually sorting and consolidating learning. Another thing that happens during sleep is that growth hormone spikes, but it has to spike in deep sleep. So you might have heard the saying that when your baby sleeps really good, they wake up and you're like, oh my gosh, did you grow overnight? It's, we say that because it's true. Your child is literally growing while they rest. Another thing that I want to point out is how much the immune system function is impacted by good quality sleep. So, the immune system actually produces infection fighting cells during deep sleep, which is why there are kids that are sleep deprived, often are the same kids that are chronically getting sick. The brain processes emotions also during REM sleep or REM cycles, meaning that like meltdowns and emotional dysregulation are often just a nervous system that's running on empty. And lastly, the body repairs tissue, it regulates hormones and restores energy reserves while a child sleeps. And I think a lot of us can understand that aspect of it, but maybe not as familiar with the other things that go on. And this brings us to the nervous system, which controls sleep and not necessarily your habits or your bedtime routine. And that's because the nervous system, think of it as having two pedals. We have the gas pedal, which we call our sympathetic side or our sympathetic dominance. And that's going to be responsible for rest, or not for rest, for stress and alertness. But then we have the brake pedal side. That's our parasympathetic side. And that's going to be your rest and your recover. And sleep is literally only going to happen when the brake pedal wins, not when the gas pedal is pressed to the floor. When the vagus nerve is working properly, the body can shift from on to off at bedtime. And that's where a lot of kids are having issues is they can't make that shift. They can't go from the stress of the day and their body being in constant survival mode to relaxing at night. So when there's interference in that nervous system, what we call subluxation, the brain and body cannot communicate or signal clearly. So the brake pedal often gets overrode by the gas pedal, and your child gets stuck in this wired state, even when they're completely exhausted. And I know it could be kind of counterintuitive, like, how come they're so tired but they can't fall asleep? It's because their bodies internally are still wired that it can't just calm. It's like trying to fall asleep after 3 energy drinks. Maybe you guys can, relate more to that as parents, that you have all these energy drinks, you've had all this caffeine, where afterwards you kind of get a slump and you kind of crash from all of those. So the body just feels, like, exhausted. But if you were to try and lay down, you can't physically, like, turn your brain off and actually fall asleep, like, your system will not rest. This is a nervous system regulation issue, not a bedtime routine or supplement issue. When we talk about the perfect storm in our often, this is one of the reasons that sleep is disrupted from day one. A child's pattern of stressors that compound over time is what we call the perfect storm. So it could be cortisol from prenatal stress during pregnancy, which crosses the placenta because the placenta that where usually becomes inactive during that transfer to the placenta. Chronic stress kind of overrides that ability to move cortisol into its inactive form. And so when that cortisol crosses the placenta, it's going to alter the baby's developing stress response system. Then there's also things like birth traumas. So inductions, epidurals, forceps, vacuum extraction, C-sections, manual pulling. These can all create what we call the subluxations, right where that vagus nerve exits the skull. Right here, base of the skull, top of the neck. And this affects breech babies too, because typically people aren't vaginally birthing breech babies. They typically say, hey, we need to schedule a C-section, your baby hasn't turned. And then the C-section adds that extra force to get baby out. There's also early life childhood stressors like antibiotic use disrupting gut health. People, give antibiotics to their kids for ear infections chronically, and they cause so much bad into the gut system, which is why these kids typically have a lot of gut issues. And I digress, that's for another time. But other early childhood stressors like chronic reflux, constipation, frequent illness, they all signal vagus nerve problems and they add to that burden on an already challenged system. And lastly, a word that we call dysautonomia literally means a dysfunctional autonomic nervous system. That is what shows up first as sleep problems long before it progresses into other things like the ear infections or the ADHD or the allergies or the anxiety later on in life. When sleep is chronically disrupted, the effects reach into every part of your child's development. So research actually shows that children with insufficient sleep can present with signs that look identical to ADHD. And if you've been aware of just children in general, there have been such an uptick in kids being diagnosed with ADHD, being put on medications for ADHD because of the hyperactivity, the impulsivity, the poor attention span, because those are what exhaustion looks like in kids, not calm and sleepy. And the immune system can't rebuild on poor sleep. So we talked about how the immune system actually produces, you know, infection fighting cells during deep sleep. So if they're not getting deep sleep, our immune system is suppressed. So these kids stay in a stuck cycle of illness, then to antibiotics, to gut disruption, to worse vagus nerve function, to then worse sleep, and to more illness. It's just this constant cycle that they go through. Memory consolidation. We talk about just kind of the brain and how it's functioning during deep sleep. Memory consolidation breaks down, making learning harder and school feel impossible in these kids that aren't getting enough sleep. And parents are just like, my kid won't focus, my kid's not retaining anything at school. Well, they can't take anything in. Their bodies are just stressed and in survival mode. Let's talk emotional regulations. That just falls apart. Explosive meltdowns, they're not just an attitude problem, they're a dysregulated nervous system. Their system is just depleted. It has nothing to run off of. And so all they know is just this like outburst, or like, blah, they can't regulate anything. Chronic sleep deprivation is strongly linked to depression as well, because the nervous system doesn't have the resources to handle normal emotional challenges. As we kind of clump all this together and come more to a close, I want to talk about what you can do as a parent. And that is tackling sleep issues, even gut issues, chronic illness issues at the source. and that is addressing nervous system dysregulation through neurologically focused chiropractic care. Because neurologically focused chiropractic care can actually restore sleep issues. It uses precise, gentle adjustments that are going to remove that subluxation and help the nervous system adapt. When subluxation is then out of the way, the nervous system can finally shift from that on to off mode, that sympathetic to parasympathetic state, the way that it was designed to. The vagus nerve can activate properly, so it's going to initiate and maintain real sleep cycles. And when it comes to how we assess for all of this, it's through neurological insight scans. So this scanning technology it's not a guessing game. It's going to actually measure exactly where the interference is, how severe the dysregulation is, and what systems are actually being affected the most. So we're never guessing. We know exactly what we need to do to help your child. And parents often tell us that sleep improvements come first. They are followed quickly by better digestion, fewer illnesses, improved behavior, and more emotional resilience. Sleep is the foundation. When your child can assess deep restorative sleep, the memory consolidation, the growth hormone, the immune strengthening, the emotional processing, everything else follows. So remember that your child's sleep struggle isn't behavioral. It's not them trying to be difficult. It's not that you've missed something in their routine or that you need to add in a supplement because they're deficient in some sort of nutrient, whatever it may be. It isn't something they're going to grow out of either. It's a nervous system that is stuck, and there is a path forward. So if you're ready to get to the real root cause of your child's sleep challenges, please reach out to myself, Dr. Kelly, or my staff at New Ridge Chiropractic and Wellness. And we're located in Colorado Springs, but we would love to help you and your family tackle the sleep issues. So click the link in our bio, send us a DM, or you can actually schedule directly with us. I'll post that in the comment below or the caption below. Let's get the whole family sleeping again.